I do not think so. I mean, some of these things you're talking about, the AI, the deepfakes, these are things that...
Just emerging.
Yeah, these are emerging technologies. But at the same time, we cannot sit down and wait, you know, for this area to be marketed, you know, the way it is happening. Now, I'll be quick to add, you know, the last point I had before we went to commercial, I mentioned you have people who have mastered to use these tools for greater and positive empowerment. And at the same time, even with the emergence of this AI technology, you have others who are subjecting it to great abuse. So it comes to a matter of choice and preference. What do you feel makes you better? Yeah? Because originally I was telling you, you can decide actually to take your side and say, everything that we say is false, is propaganda. Yet you have so many people who are currently living the realities of what government is doing. I'll give you a very good example.
All right.
A few weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago, I saw a video of someone who is claiming that the new finance bill is out. And it has all the crazy things and the new taxes that you can ever imagine. And it trended. And people are believing it. Yet at the same time, the people who know, they know that process has not even started. We are still in the budget making phase. There's no talk of any finance bill. Yet, you have somebody who is deliberately disinforming the population with the sole aim of rabble-rousing a population. Now, me and you would ask a very solemn question. To what gain?
To what gain? Now let's find out what Kenyans have to say, because we posed this particular question to you back at home. What source do you trust for accurate information? That is a poll that we were running when we were starting up this particular show. Currently, these are the numbers on your screen. That is how the poll looks like. What source do you trust for accurate information? So the figures are, or rather the responses are, as you can see on your screen. Government agencies, 13.6%. Social media, 50.8%. Civil societies, 6.8%. Independent media, 28.8%.
So, number one,
Deputy.
Number one, obviously,
yes.
Number one, obviously, is something I came to learn, Regina. No government is popular.
No government is popular.
No. Yeah.
But then what does it speak for, even for us?
Yeah, correct. And what that means is that on a daily basis, we have to wake up being proactive than reactive. Yeah.
Proactive and not reactive.
And, yeah. To the happenings of the day. And will we get it right? Yes. Are there times that we'll get it wrong? Definitely. Because I told you, as much as we aim for perfection, we may not at one day arrive and say, it's perfect, it's working. But what me and you, Regina, can promise Kenyans is the efficiency that is required. That when I communicate my truth, when we communicate government's agenda, that is the truth. Now, I'll give you an example. And I know it's been a thorn. Shah.
All right.
You have one individual here, Regina, who says, I went to hospital, I was treated, Shah paid everything. You've heard of those cases, and many so.
Yeah.
At the same time, you have somebody else who will say, I went to hospital, I was told ABC, I wasn't treated. yeah, because they said I needed to do ABC. Or they said I need to pay this. And Shah paid little to nothing. Now, as Regina, you've been subjected to two sets of information. One that has worked and one that has an issue that needs to be sorted, right? But you will hear many people saying it is not working. Yet you have people registering on a daily basis, people visiting hospitals on a daily basis, and they are being treated by the same authority, yeah? But we have put an umbrella of it is not working. It is a disservice, yeah, to not only the facilities that are assisting Kenyans on a daily basis, yeah, but also the people who are waiting for this service, yeah, to protect them from illnesses and to guide them in wellness.
To be a devil's advocate, Mr.
Yes.
Mufilman.
Correct.
We all know communication sometimes, as you said, is not what is said.
Yes.
It's what is heard and understood.
Correct.
And also blood and sex, unfortunately, is the leading... that we consume a lot of that, the negatives, basically.
True,
that's what
true,
we say in
true,
our theory.
true.
But then, as it is, the level of trust appears to be eroded where government is concerned. What is your office doing to just ramp up this support from the public for government communication?
On the trust issue,
yeah.
and I'm not saying this in a bad way. I know with time, with time, we shall be proven right. And this, again, I can say without fear of contradiction. Let me tell you what. It was just the other day, Regina, just the other day, when we had an Unga revolution, remember?
Yes. Actually, you picked that because I wanted to know what lessons we have learned from those protests.
Today,
Yeah.
CDA, something called credible deliberate actions, were put into place through the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. The farmers, yeah?
Okay.
The people who are wearing, you remember, they are wearing sufurias on their heads. They are no on our streets again.
All
because a solution was found. It took time, yes. Delayed gratification. But we are talking about a different story today than how much Unga costed 2 years ago.
Yes, we're not talking about the sufuria.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, the sufuria is no longer the story.
Today, that's why I'm telling you.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with the issue of trust, because with time, you'll be proven. Because now, I just told you, we're talking about Unga a few years ago. That's not what you're talking about, because credible, deliberate actions were taken. Today, credible, deliberate actions were taken about housing. Yes, many people the propaganda that was used that who needs a house? We don't. But there is the reality of the moment. You know, we go by research. That's what we go by. Yeah? And how tomorrow will look like. The research is 2030, nearly 60 to 70% of the population will be in urban centers.
So that
now listen, Regina. Any self-respecting leader can choose to do something now or can pass the buck to gange leo. Then what happens about tomorrow? And that's why you saw the president decided, which made me very happy, decided he had two choices. One was to play the populist leadership, or one that will leave a mark. Populist is where everybody is happy but nothing is going on. You can become a popular leader by doing nothing. But he chose the pain way towards developing a nation and putting it above, you know, the recommendations of research. Because they've documented, this is how our future will look like. So we must start engaging today so that tomorrow can be better. Instead of folding our hands and saying, uli atakuja, baadaye will deal with this problem. So if you've heard correctly, nobody is attacking the future. They are attacking the current.
Now that we're talking about the current, you know, you've put us in, you've brought this conversation, you've taken the shift to discussing the future in the present.
Yes.
Now, what lessons have we learned? You know, we're not no longer talking about the Sufuria movement, but then we're just approaching June, and June 25th, 2024 was quite, 2020, yes, was quite, was quite the day. So what lessons were learned, you know, from the Gen Z protests, and what plans, you know, have been made or are being made to avert a reoccurrence? Because, as you said, you pointed out information.
I think, Regina, that's a very great question. What lessons have we learned?
What lessons?
Mine, first of all, we saw what misinformation and disinformation can do. Propaganda has stumbled nations, countries. And I can choose to go as far back. There's somebody who gave us an example, a country that I won't mention, that acted using the wrong intelligence, and they caused harm. That is the power of misinformation and disinformation. What am I saying? That's a very big lesson that all of us must learn. Not only when it's aimed at government, no. When it's rampant in society, it creates a very big cycle of damage that may take us years to undo. Trust me on this one. And that's why I think the lessons that we are learning, even as we say, we need to find ways of communicating better. Because nobody, I can guarantee you, nobody can stand up today, no country that I know, honestly, that can say they are immune to the tribulations that have been brought by misinformation and disinformation. Everybody is trying to work. Even if you look at social media, they are trying to come up with ways, you know, to ensure that the information carried through their social media, yes, it's factual to an extent. You have those that are using now AI to try and sieve wrong information. You have social media now that have employed technology that tells you, when you question whether this incident happened, it tells you whether it's factual or not. Why do you think they've gone to such lengths? Because they know the power of disinformation. So the one thing that we've learned as government is how powerful misinformation, disinformation can be.
Are we ready to not, you know, are we from the lessons? Can we say with conviction that we are working to avoid such a debacle caused by misinformation, disinformation?
Again, I told you about people thinking they are immune to such. What I think we need to be mindful of, all of us, every peace-loving Kenyan, is to know, A, the information they are acting upon, right? And that which they shouldn't. I've told you something. Information that you cannot pass along or use, it's simply gossip. Yeah? And can you imagine if we became a country of just driving propaganda, misinformation and disinformation? What are we to become? What we do not know, and this is why I wanted to tell you what the lessons that we are learning. First of all, I learned in fact, it was a very heavy lesson, Regina. So it was when we learned that many people, before they come to our shores, and you know, we are making very good money now with tourism. Yeah, we receive nearly 2.3 million visitors. Is that they will look for information on how that country is. Regina, woe unto us when they go to our mainstream media, when they go to our social medias, and they see the kind of damage we are doing to ourselves. That is enough to send somebody or a group of people who are coming to spend their top dollars or whatever currency they are coming to use to going someplace else. We need to understand that knowledge. We need to understand how economies work. But most importantly, we need to understand the importance of riding on truth.
Riding on truth. Is your office using AI or data analytics to monitor public sentiments on television?
We are. Definitely we are.
Thank you for that confirmation.
Yes.
Takes me to the next question. So, on a personal level, you know, as we're working up towards a close,
right.
On a personal level, what has been the most significant challenge as a deputy spokesperson, and how did you address it? Very briefly, if there was. You know, to navigate the, you know, ethical dilemmas.
Mine personally, and I think to so many people.
Yes.
And in fact, this has been a problem.
Yes.
We've always gone with the old adage, people listen to the one who has the microphone, right? Here, you are fighting with who shouts loudest. But remember, the person who shouts loudest, most of the time is wrong. That is one challenge
that you're dealing with.
That we, all of us, are being faced with,
including
me personally.
So how are you handling it?
So, and I've learned this. You know, I mentioned a line of Max Herman, was it? His poem Desiderata?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, Desiderata, yes.
Speak your truth quietly and slowly. But most importantly, listen to everyone, because even the ignorant and the dull, they too have their story. Yeah? So imagine, as we learn to listen, even to those that have been given a platform, yet they are disinforming, but we are learning to listen to them and doing our very best to course correct. Yeah? Try to advise. It's not easy. And this is a challenge, I believe, not only Gabriel, but even you, Regina, very soon you are going to be dealing with.
I think, okay, if it means getting to your position, yes, well, we'll deal with that when we get there.
Yeah.
So amen to blessings.
Yeah. This is something we are going to deal with, whether it's in government or in your social, you know, space. Regina, I have so many parents who I interact with, and they are asking me the very same question. With the flurry of what we are seeing, what our children are reading,
especially the backlash, how are you handling it?
What are we to do than to continue erecting structures to give you the information that you need, the information that's truthful?
All right, we like that. I like the word truth. So, would it be wrong, or actually I'd want to ask it, so now as who is speaking for the government? Who is speaking for the government at the moment? We are having too many sources addressing the public.
And that's not going to change, because every person has their work cut out. Yes, we have the Office of the Government Spokesman, which is supposed to speak on matters or to highlight on matters, our government, when it comes to communication. We have other entities, like when you look at CSS, when you look at PSS, when you look at somebody like a CS, actually, whether you like it or not, that is a spokesperson in their own right of the ministry, you know. We have our chief spokesperson, who is the president, and he does our job very well. So in a way, as long as we have built, which is what we are working on right now, that one source of truth and information, where that information is replicated throughout, everybody can become a spokesperson, as long as that information that we are talking is verifiable and is truthful and it's factual.
All right. Gabriel,
and by the way, you'll give us kudos, honestly. You've seen the information coming up now, it's not as raggedy as it was before.
I will give my answer at the tail end of this.
You know, I told you, we cannot sit down and claim to be perfect.
Yes.
But I can guarantee you, we are working on a daily basis to efficiency.
Efficiency. Now, ethnicity often influences Kenya's politics. You know, how do you craft communication to promote national unity while also addressing the region-specific grievances? Because in light of what we have been seeing, our tonality in our messaging and conversation.
You know, that's actually a political question. Because in government, you know, we've done our very best to, when you talk of ethnicity, allow me to, I know probably it may not be pointing to that question, but we've done our very best to use the understandable language. There's also something which you probably may not know in our office. Dr. Mora has actually started this inclusivity in terms of people with disability. We are also doing our very best to reach to them. And we are succeeding. Yes, it's a journey that we'll continue pursuing. But at the same time, when it comes to the political talk and the tonality, you know, it's very hard to censor politicians. Yeah, it is something we've been. It's something that we've been called upon to clarify. Yeah, politician XYZ went somewhere and said something, and we will receive communication asking, sometimes from the media, asking us whether we can confirm or deny what this person said, and that's an arena where we can't.
Right. And what is also your take of you and the office to you leaders using their ethnic language to address public gatherings?
No, that will always be there. That will always be there. Somebody, and I will give you an example. Somebody who is elected in West Pokot will use their dialect to communicate. Somebody elected in Mount Kenya region, they will use that dialect. Somebody elected in, you know, it has always been there throughout history. And and sometimes, to be honest, we have gone to broadcasts and we've used our mother tongue to try and reach to the population and communicate. So I told you, in every space that we need to be, we are doing our best to be there. Because with communication, you don't keep it to yourself. So if I find a channel which we can agree, I talk a lot of Sheng, and I do it, I find myself in certain media houses that talk that language, and I like it.
So we cannot disassociate from that.
No.
Okay.
No.
So now, what lessons? I was coming to this point. You know, what lessons from Kenya's 2022 election cycle, you know, are shaping the approach, you know, to preempting propaganda ahead of 2027?
First of all, to be honest, we expect propaganda to increase.
All right.
As much as I said, we are employing tools to ensure that propaganda does not do a lot of damage, and the success rate of it, it's still something that we are grappling with. You see, Regina, when something is being done deliberately, you have millions of people probably who've been enticed to disinform. Obviously, the government does not have a never-ending reservoir of resources to fight that disinformation. No country does, actually, you know? And that is why I think we go back to all the tools available to ensure that we try as much as possible to reduce the propaganda noise and give Kenyans the factual information that will help them, you know? There was a conversation we were having a few weeks ago, and it was actually aimed at some of the platforms that people are being given. Regina, it's true that ignorance is receiving capacity for expression. And justifiably so. When you invite people who you know, they've built or fashioned themselves into the world of propaganda.
Right.
You give them a platform
to have that conversation.
To have that, what would you be expecting? Yeah?
That's a good question.
So, again, it's even, the onus is up to you.
No.
Who do you bring on board? Who do you give that platform? All right?
All right.
I told you it's
we
not...
take the challenge.
Yes, it's
as
not...
We come to a close, I also want to know, as we come to a close, this might actually be our last question on the shift tonight. How would you describe the relationship you have as an office with the media?
Honestly, I think we've done our very best.
All right.
All media houses will tell you that when we got into office, we set up a raft of meetings. We met the media houses. We met the presenters. Both, in the mainstream and the digital space. We even went ahead to meet vernacular presenters. It was an amazing discussions we were having. And here, we actually even at one point met with the media owners. Truth be said. Yeah? All trying to be proactive and to have a good working relationship.
Is it cordial? Is it combative?
Oh, no. Mm-hmm. Our meetings were very cordial. We've continued to be very cordial in our engagement with all the medias. Has that been reciprocated, obviously, as you have seen? Not by all. And sometimes you're left wondering, what more can you do? What more can you do? Because we have bent over backwards to say, let's sit down, let's talk. Hold us to account, yes. It's not that you should write everything to our expectation, no. What we are begging, and this is what everybody begs for,
all right,
is fairness.
Fair?
And facts. When you come to me with facts, we will have an engagement. When you hit me with the truth that's not making sense to you, Regina, we will have an engagement. But when you come with propaganda that you had from the dark places, how are we going to engage? When you splash, when you splash headlines that leave all of us, are you sure you would not have called somebody to confirm this information? Because it's what you have seen yourself. Yeah? Even some media houses that are dealing with fake news, the media houses, that on a daily basis you have to post a word fake on something that has purported come from your media house. So the same information, the same issues you're dealing with, I told you, we are not immune.
Okay.
So imagine if on a daily basis we go plastering things fake. And at some point we've been forced to do so.
So do you remain cordial or as just one word?
We have remained cordial.
You remain cordial.
We've remained cordial throughout.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. Tonight on Shift, we have been discussing government communication with none other than the Deputy Government Spokesperson, Gabriel Muthuma. Their take home is that whatever information that you cannot relay or consume, consider it gossip. Well, this marks the end of season 2 of The Shift. We will be taking a break after this show tonight. But as we sign out, we have a snippet of some of the moments that we've had this season. I am Regina Manyara. You have been watching The Shift. See you on the next season. Back to you for normal programming.
The Shift with Regina Manya.
Inuka na loto moto sasa kwa star 570 hash option ya 4 kuna kashamba juja na nika 50 by 100 worth 1.7 million Kenyan shillings. Na hii si shamba tu, iko kwa prime location, few minutes from Juja Town. Hatima yako iko ndani. Na kama ni development, rapid and so promising. Na mambo ya landlord, mwisho wa mwanzo ni hapa. Ukishinda hili shamba, tunakuongeza 1 million Kenyan shillings. Ujijengee nyumba yako kwa shamba yako. Kuinuka na Loto Moto ni kucheza sasa hivi kupitia *570# option ya 4 au register deposit na ucheze sasa hivi kwa www.tushinde.com na ujishindie shamba hili na addition of 1 million Kenyan shillings. Inuka na Loto Moto!
Why are you looking for Dad?
Miss your Duanzi, Miss your Fala.
Get out!
I received a text in the middle of the night.
That girl likes getting herself into danger.
But I thought your motherly instinct spoke last night.
Wait.
Let me help you with that.
Where is Alice, by the way?
She went...
You are all useless. Actually, I was waiting for you.
May I know why?
Mambo ya sheria.
Maybe now we can talk.
We continue with the day's news and we look at the business news of the day. And the Institute of Public and Finance Senior Research Analyst Bernard Njiri is calling on government agencies to prioritize clearance of pending bills in order to stimulate economic activity that will enable businesses create more wealth and tax. Elsewhere, consultants at Ernst & Young East Africa project are calling for measures that will widen the tax brackets to fund the 2025-2026 budget.
State agencies owe about 700 billion shillings in pending bills. A senior research analyst at Institute of Public Finance says the pending bills are causing a cash flow pressure on the private sector.
This money is owed to the private sector that we saw is struggling to repay its loans to the banking sector. So at the end of the day, the government is tying up working capital for businesses and so also affecting economic growth at the end of it all.
Njiri says there is a need to strengthen the linkage between budget planning and execution to reduce costs for programs that are allocated funding despite their poor performance.
For those state departments that were not able or that could still achieve their KPIs with less than half of their budget absorbed, we can free those resources and they total 6.3 billion. We can free those resources and reallocate them to other critical programs.
In their pre-budget analysis, consultants at Ernst & Young East Africa are calling for the widening of the tax bracket to boost revenue collections for funding the 2025-2026 budget.
Economic theory dictates that increase in revenue, in taxes and tax rates will increase revenue collection. But it will get to that point where it cannot do it anymore. And I think as a country, and as East Africa at large, we got to that level.
Ernst & Young East Africa consultants are proposing a reduction in taxes to support businesses and to boost purchase power of consumers.
IMF is going to be pushing, people say the IMF conditionalities are tough. They should be tough because if they're coming in to give you a lifeline, and IMF comes in as a lender of last resort to government, they have a right to make certain demands.
Ndutamo Kami for Prime Edition.
Kenya has signed an agreement to set up the first artificial intelligence factory in Africa to facilitate AI scaling, research and development. Kenya is also lobbying to host Dubai-backed AI Everything Tech exhibition. Betty Kiptum tells us more from GTEx Africa in Marrakech, Morocco.
Kenya launched a strategy that seeks to position the country as a leader in artificial intelligence. In line with this, the country signed a deal with Cassava Technologies to build the first artificial intelligence factory in Africa.
Leading a Kenyan delegation to Morocco for the GTEx Africa exhibition, Kenya's Special Envoy for Technology, Ambassador Philip Thigo, says the factory will be instrumental in supporting startups to access AI capabilities, research and development.
We are really moving very quickly around infrastructure development. Last week I was in Rwanda with the Prime Cabinet Secretary, where we made an announcement with Cassava Technologies around putting up the first ever AI factory in the continent. And that AI factory is specifically geared to support startups. One, around accessing AI capabilities, but secondly, working with the university around research and development. And as you know, AI is everything.
Kenya's ambassador to Morocco, Ambassador Jessica Gakinya, says the country is a strong player in the tech ecosystem, adding that collaboration will open up opportunities for Kenyans.
No competition, just collaboration. Nigeria has what they are strong in because they have their use cases, because technology is here to solve solutions. So Kenya looks at how can technology solve Kenyan solution. Nigeria is looking at how can technology solve Nigeria solutions, or what is it that Nigeria wants to solve solutions in their country and in the rest of the world. Kenya is doing the same. Everybody has their own mindset. We can combine that and be big. It's a space that is unlimited.
This even as African countries have been urged to collaborate in order to attract investment into its technology ecosystem from across the world, as well as unlock the much needed funding to scale the innovations.
When it comes to Africa, there needs to be more intra-innovation and intra-trade. And I think at the moment, it's pretty low, I think, generally. To be able to harness and congregate and converge, these startup founders together, there will be a greater opportunity for them to be able to synergize. And I think that will make the investments into Africa more attractive, because nobody's going to look at countries in isolation anymore.
Ambassador Gakinya says Kenya is lobbying to host more technology events to bring funding closer to startups that may not have access to global events. As emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence continue to gain traction across the world, Kenya is positioning itself to be the leader in this industry across Africa in order to attract investments and innovations. Reporting from Marrakesh in Morocco, my name is Betty Kiptun.
Thank you, Betty, for that story. Now, a public sensitization on the affordable housing project kicked off Tuesday in central Kenya, with calls on the government to broaden civic education on the process of acquiring a house in Embu. Residents were taken on a tour of the affordable housing project on the outskirts of Embu town that is 90% complete. The project has 20 studio apartment units, 40 one-bedroom units and 40 two-bedroom units. Members of the public have been urged to leverage this sensitization campaign and enroll to buy the affordable housing units with the projects, or rather with the project in Embu.
Na ningeuliza kama president angeanza ingine ndio tuendelee na job hii. Na sasa kwa manyumba hii vile imeisha, I would like me kununua ile ya one bedroom, kwa sababu nimesikia iko na bei mzuri. Ningetaka kuuliza kama ukweli mara tatu tutafikia hao watu wa bottom kama mimi wa kupika chai, hata kama niko na upendo ya kununua.
Nimeona ni mzuri kwa sababu 30 years kwa 1.2 ukifanya hesabu zako hauwezi kusikia kusukumwa sana. Kwa hiyo nimeona ikiwa sawa, fair kabisa, bei na muda, na hata ziko spacious. So swali ni kwamba hizo percentage za kulipwa za kwanza zinalipwa wapi, na uhakika ni vipi ya kujua kwamba kama sasa tuko Embu tuko watu 2,000 kwa mfano, na sisi sote tumetoa pesa, tutahakikishiwa aje ya kwamba wewe ambayo kama mimi ambayo nilijenga ninataka kununua, na uhakika wa mimi niliyejenga nitapewa, itakuwa aje?
Na kwa hivyo tunaomba wananchi ambao wangeweza kuoccupy hizi nyumba waweze kujisajili kwa mboma yangu hapo, ndio waweze kuelekezwa vile wataweza kusave ndio waweze kupata hizi nyumba kwa urahisi.
Yule mtu ameingia kwa boma yangu, hiyo ndio atakuanza kuruketiwa nyumba. Ndio kurejesha kwa hiyo boma yangu, you must be a Kenya citizen with 18 and above. Na ukiingia kwa boma yangu niende ile pesa uko nayo hata ikiwa ni kidogo, ndio mtu wote apate chance ya kupata hizi nyumba. Hakuna ile maximum imewekwa hiyo, lazima uingie nayo motoa hiyo. Ni kile utapata ile, utakuwa ni mama boga, atua ni ile utapata every day.
Kenya and Egyptian firms should explore business deals that would help boost trade between the two countries. Egyptian Deputy Ambassador to Kenya, Mustafa Saad, says Egyptian firms are increasingly keen on settling up their footprint in Kenya. Saad was speaking when the group officially launched an office as a launchpad into the larger East African markets. Apologies for that, H, but you can find that story on our website at kbc.co.ke. I put a cap on tonight's business news. Irene Muchuma will be bringing you the day's sports. My name is Irene Mujenga. Have a good night.
Nilikupeleka kwa pedicure.
Aje sasa?
Nilikupeleka kwa massage.
Wewe.
Namuuliza maswali.
Uliza maswali ya maana mzee.
What are you talking?
Maswali umemaliza.
Ndio wacha ujinga.
Uliza
maswali ambayo iko na adabu. Niko na adabu.
Utanyamaza.
Asira niko nayo kama mwanaume. Kama mwanaume.
Wakapigana. Hapo ndio nilijua nimeolewa na mwanaume. Hii. Asante.
Sina ingine. Na wewe umesema. Mtu akusi huyu.
Thank you for staying with us. Welcome to Channel 1 Sports. President William Ruto has challenged Football Kenya Federation to ensure that all national football teams are competing in international tournaments as he flagged off the under-20 men's team Rising Stars who are on their way to Egypt for the under-20 Africa Cup of Nations. This is the first under-20 team to compete at the Africa Cup of Nations and will be playing at the continental event just 6 months after the girls under-17 team, Junior Starlets, became the first Kenyan team to play at the World Cup when they secured their ticket to the Dominican Republic in October last year.
We are not playing in the League of Kenya when it comes to football, because Kenya plays in the international space when it comes to sports. And that is why my friend Mohammed and my other friend McDonald, gentlemen, you have a job to do.
Even as Rising Stars head to Cairo for the Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations, President William Ruto expects to see more from football, especially with the government's heavy investment in football stadiums across the country.
If you did not understand the magnitude of the responsibility on your shoulders, my brother, let me tell you, we have a lot of expectations from your team. The young talent in Kenya have a lot of expectations from football.
we are making every stride, every measure is being put in place to ensure that we revive football in this country and to ensure that we have the best for our youth.
The president flagged off the team today, the first to play at the Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations, and challenged them to go all the way in the continental event, despite facing African giants in the preliminaries.
If you play at the finals, I will come to cheer you up. So, usiniangusha hapo.
Rising Stars have been pulled in Group B together with 7-time champions Nigeria, Morocco and Tunisia in the tournament that kicks off on the 27th of this month, with Kenya beginning their campaign against Morocco on 1st of May.
The preparations have been well, and about the group that we are in, I want to assure you that as Under-20, we are going to fight. We are going to make the Kenyans proud.
It is a good prelude for AFCON and CHAN, and therefore I have no doubt that this team, Your Excellency, will measure up, to the expectations of Kenyans.
Rising Stars qualification to the Africa Cup of Nations comes just 6 months after Junior Starlets became the first Kenyan football team to play at the World Cup when they competed at the Under-17 Women World Cup in the Dominican Republic last October, and even managing to register a victory against Mexico.
On that note, we have come to the end of Prime Edition. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your feedback on our social media platforms. Earlier on, we had Weri Munjenga with the business news on sign language interpretation tonight. We had Susan Thuku, and now we have Byron Abule. Thank you for your time. Good night. God bless you.
Jet A1, cheza aviator bila data bila credo. Dial *892# for instant takeoff. Pepea bila pressure kucrash au kucash out. Aviator bila data, aviator bila credo. Uko na kabambe, wewe pia ni rubani mnoma. Dial *892#. Jet A1, michezobet.com. Cheza kwa kuwajibika. Kushiriki ni miaka 18 au zaidi. BCLB license number 0000664.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
Welcome, na niko na watatu hapa ambao wamefika hapa kupitia *570# au tushinde.com. Padi ni jina langu. Yako ni gani? Unajiita nani?
Mimi naitwa Simon.
Simon, kutoka area gani?
Kutoka Egerton.
Unataka nini?
Mimi nimekujia pesa.
Pesa? Kama shilingi ngapi hivi?
Kama shilingi 100,000 niende nikachukua pikipiki nifanye kazi.
Simon, sababu fiti iko 100,000 hapo.